big move for your nephew, Tyler, ending up in Tennessee.
All right, so while Tennessee is where we settled, we think there's a great opportunity. Love that they drafted Cam Ward, right? He's got a young, fiery quarterback that's going to let it rip. And so for him,
getting much more into women's basketball due to work and generally. Any big predictions for the new season, and how do you feel about that Angel Reese, Caitlin Clark rivalry that the media?
NBA is like one-on-one a lot. I think in WNBA, you start to see them actually run plays and pick and pop and shoot the ball.
Who would you cast? Who would be Willie Beeman?
Justin Jefferson in there. Let him be Willie Beeman.
Favorite NFL rivalry?
San Francisco and Oakland. Not Las Vegas, but Oakland.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, a very warm welcome to Aaron Lockett. From playing for Kansas State, playing up in Canada, playing in the NFL, one of the fastest athletes around, then transitioning to having his own agency. This man has given so much to the game. Aaron, great to see you. How's everything going over there?
It's going pretty well. It's busy, of course. Slowing down just a little bit. I'm scared to say that, but doing well.
Let's start with the agency then. Ever since I saw Jerry Maguire, this has always intrigued me, and I've been interviewing athletes for many, many years. So what are you most proud of? What have you got going on at the moment?
Really the transition. I think being an athlete is one thing and looking at it from an athlete's lens, but being an agent is totally different, right? You're on the business side of it. And while athletes always want to understand the business side, there's so many side conversations that happen relative to athletes that it's just interesting to be on this side to hear how decision makers talk about potential clients.
What does your day-to-day look like in terms of meetings, phone calls, hanging out with athletes? Just give us a little glimpse into your life.
You ask my wife, she says too much. But I think she understands. It's one of those situations where everybody's moving at a different pace. I will believe you got to strike when the iron's hot, right? Situations and opportunities come far and in between. And when a team is really, really interested, you've got to continue to expand that conversation, accelerate it to the point of where you can get it across the finish line and you do the deal. But just checking on the wealth of and the care of my clients, making sure my team that I work with day in and day out are doing well. And then just trying to enjoy life at the same time.
Yeah, the balance. What's the coolest thing about being an agent for you?
The satisfaction of the families, right? Like having a dream. I can't say making it professional is everybody's lifelong dream, but it's obviously something that people think of and say, you know what, that'd be really cool to get there. And as you start helping them get through that process, it's amazing to see the gratitude that's given back, right? Just the care, the organic conversations. And then when they finally make it and they sign that professional contract, just the responses you get back from the families is overwhelming.
Is there anybody you're particularly excited about at the moment on your roster who you think deserves a light shone on them?
You know, my new rookies this year, right? So LaJohntay Wessler, Jamiah Hunter, excited for both of those guys. Both of those guys started off at different universities, hit the transfer portal as that's becoming more popular now, took their talents to a different university, got a chance to shine on that stage, and now they're getting a chance to play in the National Football League. And so while LaJohntay, as of today, is going through his first mini camp, Jeremiah will be going through minicamp next week with the Chicago Bears, and just seeing how they've grown over the last 4 months. Just excited to see how their skills translate to the NFL.
You also had a background in finance, right? So I feel like very multifaceted. That must have set you up well. How did that outlook help you with your agency?
Yeah, it's been really tremendous. When I stopped playing football, just like every pro athlete, you got to figure out what's next, right? And so for me, I was always intrigued in working for a major corporation, and so spent 18 years in oil and gas. And so, which is a different transition, obviously, than playing football. But learn the ins and outs of business development, learn strategic planning, learn how to trade, learn about commodities. And as you mentioned, with a finance and accounting background, just learn the market, right? And so learning how to manage money, but ultimately it helps you lead people. And so when you start an agency, that's what you're doing. You're literally leading people, right? And so being able to have those tough conversations, right? Being very straightforward and transparent, but yet not degrading. So there's a balance between there, right? And so just trying to bring everybody along the journey together. And I'm continuing to learn as well from a lot of my clients.
What's one thing that people might not know about running an agency, the realities of it, because it's not all glamorous, right?
Yeah. The realities of it is it only goes as much as you push it. If I literally do nothing for 2 weeks, nothing happens. Right? It's literally like that, right? And when I say nothing, I mean the milestones that you want to get to, right? And so while a little of the day-to-day will continue to operate, you'll hit a point where you're struggling, right? And so you've literally got to be thinking ahead of it. Like you've got to forecast 6 months out, 12 months out. The recruiting process is critical, right? And so for my 2026 draft class, we're already 75% done, right? Like we've already started those conversations last year. And so while their turn wasn't this year, it will be coming. But if you wait till everybody's the next who's who, you're going to miss out.
Wow. So your own college career was electric. You were so fast, track and field, basketball as well, right? How did you decide football was the one? What makes you love that game?
I was just really good. I was really good in football. Obviously really, really good in track as well, right? Basketball, I was decent. I played varsity my freshman year, but I was more of a defensive player, but very athletic to where my speed would help more in track and more in football. But when I learned the wide receiver position that you can just run past people and catch the ball and the fans would cheer, then I was like, that's a no-brainer. But got a chance to run college track as well. So I got a chance to scratch that itch and see what that felt like. And so, which is why I'm an assistant track coach now for my daughter's summer league team. She runs track. And so it's just, being able to have that as part of my life is incredible as well. But obviously football and my love for women's basketball has just grown, right? And so recently, within the last year, we opened up our women's division of basketball. So those are the two main lanes within the agency. And we're starting to see the growth there right now.
You must be so proud as a father to see your daughter inherit that kind of speed. Like, what a feeling, huh?
It is. She's had the opportunity to run in the Junior Olympics the last couple of years. I had my breath taken away. She got a chance to run at Oregon, right? And so just to be able to see that field and see her out there running was pretty cool. Just trying to explain to her, like, you've got to keep going though, right? While you're great when you're young, people will get taller, they'll get more athletic, they'll get faster. And so high school is really where we'll see if she has what it takes. But obviously, just having that connection with her is something that I really appreciate.
Tell me about your time at Kansas State. Consistent 11-win seasons, top 10 rankings. It was a great era. What was it like?
Amazing, right? So I came in. So one older brother, he played 4 years at Kansas State. So I got a chance to see Kansas State go through not the golden years, but coming up to the golden years. But my recruiting class was amazing, right? The JUCO guys that we brought in along with the high school guys. But getting a chance to play at Kansas State, it's one of those opportunities where when you get on the field, you've got to show something. And for me, my freshman year, over 900 yards receiving, over 6 touchdowns, ranked number 1 in the nation from a team for 10 weeks. I mean, that was the pinnacle of being at college football. And from there, I just learned how to be consistent, right? Learn how to develop the game and then just continue to take my talents to another level. So college was amazing. Right? Like it's different now with NIL, right? I wonder if some of our guys would have stayed, right? Obviously having a high dollar value, I think we're going to bleed the pocketbook, so they was going to go somewhere else. But it was cool to see everybody stay at that time and point and really put together an amazing team. I've got lifelong friendships from there, but definitely played high level Division I football. You
played under Bill Snyder, right? What did he leave you with? What kind of lessons? What was that like?
Life lessons. It's interesting. I still talk to Bill today, right? And so I can call him Bill because I'm grown now. Coach Snyder back in the day, right? But, he was always trying to be a father figure more than just a coach, right? There were so many guys that came into there with fathers in their lives, right? Similar to myself, my dad and mom been married for 50 years. And so didn't need a father figure, but while we're away from home, right, he was always that foundation that you needed. And so he talked more about life than he did about football, right? And so now as we go through your 20s and 30s and now 40s, you understand why he was doing what he was doing. At that time and point, it was annoying, but now it's beneficial, right? And so just learning how to navigate through life and make the right decisions, put yourself around the right group of people, I found it to be helpful in my life.
What gives him that X factor? What makes him one of the great ones, you think?
He's strategic, right? I don't know how athletic he is, but he's strategic. And he sees things before they happen, but he also listens, which is one thing I took from him that I've brought into the agency. We actually listen to our clients, right? While we have professional opinions based on experience and knowledge, we take a step back and we listen, right? Because we're not always right. I think that's the biggest thing there. And so I would rather listen, give my client an opportunity to make an informed decision. And if it doesn't go the right way, I think they'll come back and say, you know what, maybe next time we'll take your professional advice. But for him, he listened to his players. He listened to me. I would say, hey, coach, let's run this play. Maybe not immediately, but a quarter later, he'll run the play. And if it worked out, he'll trust me. And so I think that's where listening is a big thing for me and for growing this agency.
Tell me about those rivalry games when you were at Kansas State. How intense were they with those matchups?
Extremely intense. I would say, for me, obviously KU was a rivalry more for our teammates that were, from the state of Kansas. So respectful for them. We took that always to heart. But for me, it was always the OU games, right? Because I'm from Oklahoma. And OU was always, they had some of our former coaches. They had really great players. I knew a lot of guys coming from my high school and from Tulsa. That was always a rivalry game. And so while we never really got the best of them, it was always enjoyable to be a part of that. And then Oklahoma State was just the other side as well. So just having so many ex-teammates play on Oklahoma State as well. Just enjoyed being in a conference that allowed me to play against my home state. It
was a bit of a roller coaster last season for Kansas State. How do you see it going for them? What do you think needs to be done?
While it's a roller coaster, they have great players, right? They had 3 guys drafted. I mean, my year, we had 6 guys drafted. And so you can just see they still have the level of talent that's needed. I see the quarterback getting better. Avery's getting more experience. Dylan Edwards getting more versatile. Obviously, Coach Kleinman knows what he's doing. So I expect them to always be competitive, right? It's just winning those tough games of what they've got to do just to get back to the Big 12 championship. But I think over the last 6-7 years, as far as Kleinman's been there, he's done a really good job, and I expect him to be good going forward.
Yeah, Avery Johnson's been getting a lot of buzz, Heisman buzz. Do you think he'll end up in New York come December?
He's a good player. Yeah, he can go. He's a modern day Lamar Jackson. And so obviously he can throw the ball, he can run, he's got that same physique. And so I just see his experience kicking in this year. So I'm excited to see what he can do. Big
move for your nephew, Tyler, ending up in Tennessee.
Yeah.
Did you see that coming? How excited are you for that?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, so Tyler's one of our clients as well, right? And so, part of those conversations around what makes sense for him, right? And so while Tyler's situation is a little bit different, right? Because he's not coming in as a 6'3", 200-pound receiver as an X guy. He's coming in more of a slot. And so they're strategic around where does he fit, right? And so there was a couple of teams that had interest in him. But just trying to find the right spot. And so while Tennessee is where we settled, we think there's a great opportunity. Love that they drafted Cam Ward, right? He's got a young, fiery quarterback that's going to let it rip. And so for him, I think he's experienced enough to be in the right place at the right time. And I think he'll build confidence with him. And I think he's going to help that team out a lot.
What a magic combination. How much can those two make fire over there, Cam Ward and Tyler?
I'm hoping a lot, right? It's always about the chemistry. Right. And so obviously new individuals working together, but luckily they have OTAs and off season to get it together. Obviously you've got Ridley on the other side. They've drafted 2 studs coming in as well. I think they're putting something together. I haven't watched a lot of Tennessee football, to be honest, but I will this year.
What did you make of Cam getting drafted first? I was keeping a close eye because I did an interview with the guys who made the documentary about him, and I found his 0-star story really fascinating. So to see him get drafted number 1, I thought was great. He seems to have everything he needs. How highly do you rate him?
I thought he was the number 1 pick, right? I think if you look at the intangibles, right, he started off at in Cardinal Ward, then he went to Washington State, then he went to Miami, right? When you take a quarterback that can learn an offense that quickly and be that productive at 3 different schools, I think that's something that you have to take into account because that's what the NFL is expecting you to come and do is, right, learn the playbook, be a leader, put people in the right position, at the end of the day, win games. And so I think that he's demonstrated some of those quality and tools that you look for prior to coming to the professional ranks. And so I think it was a calculated move. I don't think it was a tough risk. And I think he'll go in and I think he'll do well.
And what about Shedeur Sanders after that first day? Everyone, was talking about how he hadn't got drafted yet,
right.
How it all went down. What were your thoughts?
I thought he should have been drafted, right? I think he's done enough in college to showcase that he has athletic ability. He's made some great throws. Obviously, watched him a little bit more this year with LeJounte being one of our clients. And then just being able to see Shedeur at Pro Day, amazing Pro Day, right? Like he can literally let it rip. And just a fun-loving young man. And so while I don't know him a lot personally, I can tell his game is ready for the next level. And so I thought it was unfortunate how far he slipped, but obviously I think Cleveland got a steal. I think he'll come in there and compete, and I think he's going to make plays over the next couple of years.
What was it like for you in the CFL? You went for the Grey Cup in your first year.
Yeah.
What was your experience like up there?
I actually enjoyed it a lot. I thought I was going there for a year, and then I was bouncing right back to the NFL. I ended up loving it. Obviously, in the CFL, there's 3 downs, and there's no fair catching. So you literally have to, receive everything, whether you catch it or catch it off the bounce, right? So you end up having 7-8 returns a game. And when you think about, 18 games, you end up having 90-something punt returns. Like, that's just unreal, right? And so it's a full-time job as a returner there. But one of those situations where the field's a little bit wider, speed kills, I took advantage of that and ended up having a great 3 years up in Canada.
What's your favorite memory from the NFL?
My favorite memory from the NFL, I was a rookie and it was in training camp. And I remember it was after, I think, our 3rd preseason game. And I think I was walking off the field and Warren Sapp walked next to me, and I had made a 35 or 45-yard punt return. And he was like, "Okay, Corral, you may be all right." I don't think he ever said another word to me again, but that's the only thing that I remember from him. But I do know when you get to the professional ranks, vets appreciate young men that can play football, right? Because that's what they're paying you to do, right? So regardless of who you are off the field, if you can help them win, they'll love you to death.
Doing what I do, it's so much about personality in terms of what captures the imagination for fans. And that's what I look for. Who does it on the field and off the field? Who captures the imagination? Who was the biggest personality you ever encountered playing football?
Keyshawn Johnson / T.O., right? So I had an opportunity to be on teams with both of them. Probably T.O. by far, right? Just because I spent a longer time in San Francisco than I did in Tampa. But being in meeting rooms with T.O., watching his professionalism, watching how he goes out there and performs and how talented he is. He wants to outcatch everybody. He wants to outjump everybody. He wants to race everybody. And while the media may look at him a certain way as a diva, he's an extremely talented professional. Like, he's a good football player, right? And so I think just being around that type of personality and watching him back it up was pretty amazing. I was there when he did the Sharpie in Seattle, pulled it out of the sock. And so just being able to have that confidence and deliver consistently, I think is something amazing.
Those moments.
Yeah.
Who do you think is the gold standard in the NFL right now in terms of talent, looking at them as an agent, like marketability? Who has the whole package and is the example for young players right now?
Saquon Barkley. I mean, Saquon Barkley is the man. Like the way what he did for Philadelphia this year, right? Consistently, I think is beyond unimaginable. All right. Just coming in and having that type of impact. He just looks the part, right? He looks like a football player. He delivers like a football player. He went and won a Super Bowl. And then when he was in New York, they wasn't saying that he had passed his prime already, but he wasn't who he was today, right? And so when I just looked at the NFL and I just looked at somebody that just made that team tick, he was just one of those guys.
For you, and what's the lesson that you tell your players, the transition between college and the NFL? What's the thing that stuck out to you most?
It's a good question. The biggest thing I tell them is that consistency. Everybody can play, right? You wouldn't even be in the conversation if you couldn't play at this level, right? There are too professional and too experienced decision makers to say he can and cannot play at this level. They understand the skill set. But what I challenge my clients to do is, can you do it consistently over and over and over again? And can you not get too high and not get too low, right? Like, it's all about being able to come in and deliver at that level. I mean, I think a couple of years ago, we all watched Steph Curry, right, hit every shot. Every time he shoots it, do you feel like it's going in? The answer is yes, right? It's just that consistent, right? And so seeing LeBron come and make those blocks from behind teammates, I mean, those are just things that you come to expect. But if you think about the level of athleticism that it takes and consistency, it's amazing. And so just one of those things where just trying to push them to be professional, right? I challenge my guys to be a pro every day before they get into the NFL, because the NFL doesn't wait for you, right? Those moments that you have to learn cost you money, right? And so The more ready you can be coming into the National Football League, the better opportunity you have a long-standing career.
It was interesting earlier you mentioned it would have been interesting if NIL had been around when you were in college. What do you make of NIL, and how much of an impact has it had on your players, on the agency, on the opportunities now for young players?
I think it's wonderful, right? I think all of these athletes have done everything to get these universities all the marketing and all the attention that they deserve. But in return, the players are now finally getting paid for it, right? And so while there's discrepancies based on university on who's getting paid what, once again, these athletes are going out and putting their bodies on the line and really starting to maximize opportunities. And they're not all going to make it pro. And not because they're not good. There's just not enough spots. Right? When you really think about it, right? There's 53 guys in football on an active roster, right? There's 14 guys or so that's on the practice squad, and everybody's not leaving every year. And then you have 257 draft picks, right? And call it 200 make it plus some undrafted guys. So there's 200 people that's going to lose their job every year that's already in the NFL. There's just not enough room for all of these good players coming. So it's amazing to see them start making money now so they at least can live life. Right? Because they've put their bodies on the line. They've jeopardized internships so they can go into summer workouts. And so at least they can come out with a couple of $100,000 to say, you know what? I can go work. I had a great college career. I didn't make it pro, but at least I'm not financially struggling, and I don't have debt and loans that I have to pay back based on my sacrifice for my college sport.
I just want to ask you before we wrap up with a little quick fire. You said you've been getting much more into women's basketball due to work and generally. Any big predictions for the new season, and how do you feel about that Angel Reese, Caitlin Clark rivalry that the media seems to love so much?
Yeah, they love that. You know, while there's a ton of good basketball players in the WNBA, obviously Angel and Caitlin get a lot of the notoriety based on coming from college. But if you take a step back and really look at it, the game has evolved, right? They've always been able to play, but the skill sets are there, right? And so the way they dribble, the way they do everything but dunk consistently. Right. While some can dunk consistently, but they can flat out shoot the ball. Right. I think it's more organized basketball than the NBA. NBA is like one-on-one a lot. I think in WNBA, you start to see them actually run plays and pick and pop and shoot the ball. I'm excited to see the Mercury because one of our clients is there. So Tamara Poindexter, right? She's a rookie. She's there in camp. So obviously right now we're Mercury fans because we want to see, how well they can do. Obviously, just looking across the league, New York won it last year, and trying to see what other teams can become competitive. But for the most part, just excited to see the season. They're going through preseason right now. And so it's interesting to always see the transition from college players as they go into professionals once again. And so just looking at how some of the players have already transitioned, I think it's going to be really interesting for everybody to watch.
Can I just ask you, being from England, my experience with football growing up was through movies, right? Like movies like Any Given Sunday.
Right.
Are you a fan of that movie?
Yes.
I was just wondering if I could have your take in a remake of Any Given Sunday. Who would you cast today? So we got Jamie Foxx, Al Pacino, Cameron Diaz, Dennis Quaid. Who would you cast? Who would be Willie Beeman?
Willie Beeman would be, let me think here. Willie Beeman would be, I don't know. I'm going to throw Justin Jefferson in there. Let him be Willie Beeman, right? Just because I know, what he can do on the field. But I think that would be interesting. Obviously, you could throw Angel Reese in there. She could figure out a way to make to make an appearance. And then from a coaching standpoint, I think you throw Sean McVay in there, right? I think Sean's had. Because he's one of the younger coaches, one of the more successful coaches, he worked his way up, had the quick rise to a championship. Then he had somewhat of a slope. Now he's on his way back up. And so I think that he'll give you a true perspective of what coaching looks like.
What, an Al Pacino role?
Yes.
Yeah, that speech was something else. And what about the Cameron Diaz, the boss is the boss?
Oh, the boss is the boss. I don't know about that one. I don't know. I'll have to take some time to think about that. That's one of the ones you want to put the right person in the right situation.
Yeah, I think one day that might get remade, that one. Okay, so we'll wrap up with a little quick fire. So what is your hidden talent?
I can cut hair.
That's
Literally.
a good one.
Yeah, I wanted to be a barber growing up. So I learned to cut hair when I was in leaving middle school, cut hair in high school, cut hair in college when I played pro, cut some of the teammates' hair. So yeah, I actually would be a barber if I didn't do anything else, but I can't stop doing everything else.
That's awesome. You've achieved a hell of a lot already in your life. What is on your bucket list? Something big that you got to tick off?
For me, it's all about the agency. Like I have a vision. I always get that question, why don't you jump ship and go to one of the bigger agencies? And I always say, why don't I start my own and get there? Right. I think I can close the gap. I keep leaning on people. I've got mentors. I learn, I listen. I try hard. I try harder the next time, and I just keep going. And so I just want to grow it to a point to where it's an agency that speaks for itself. Right. And so that is the goal. And I don't have a time limit on. I'm not going anywhere. So I'm here.
Favorite NFL rivalry?
San Francisco and Oakland. Not Las Vegas, but Oakland.
Yeah, that's what I knew growing up.
That fan base in Oakland is one of a kind, right? And so that's a stadium like no other.
Best quarterback in NFL today?
You know who's going to be the best quarterback? CJ Stroud. CJ Stroud is legit, right? I live here in Houston, so obviously I see a lot of his clips just on TV as I'm watching the news or something like that. But his poise and his connection with his receivers, with Nico and Tank, and with Diggs before he left, and with some of the new guys coming in, I think CJ Stroud will be the real deal before it's all said and done.
Outside of family, who's your favorite NFL player of all time and why?
Deion Sanders. Because he played both ways, and I did in high school as well. And so I wore 21 in high school, just like Deion. I put the Nike headband around my neck, just like Deion. I wore the high socks like Deion. And I played both ways, like I said. And so for me, Deion, and then next was Andre Rison. And so those two guys for me just is what football was all about.
If you could change one thing about the NFL, what would it be?
Let players come in earlier. Right now, I know that it's a physical game, and I know you have to wait until you've been in school for 3 years based on, or being out of high school. So, for 3 years, but if the talent is there, and I'm looking at somebody like Smith at Ohio State, right? The receiver probably would have been a top 10 pick this year. Right. Some people are nowadays, you can manufacture a 40, right? You through training, you can get to a 4.3, even if you're not a 4.3 everyday guy. Physically, these guys are ahead of the curve, right? And so there's some guys, and maybe not your freshman year, but maybe cut the 3 down to 2 years, right? Because what's going to happen now is guys are just going to, not sit out, but they're just going to wait till their NFL time comes. They don't want to get hurt in college, right? Running backs doesn't have a long shelf life. And so a 4-year running back in college doesn't do anything for NFL. You come in with too much tread on your tires.
That's insightful. That's insightful. And you're a man who knows.
Yeah, I think cutting it down to 2 years for the right situations is ideal. So I think that would be a big change.
Aaron Lockett, you're the man. I really appreciate this. It's been so fun talking to you. All the best to you, the agency, the family, absolutely killing it. It's going to be a big year.
Thank you. I greatly appreciate it. Thank you for the time. As always, love an opportunity to talk about the agency, and going forward, you hear a lot about Next Page Sports.
Awesome. 100%. So respect. Thanks, Aaron.